Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go pack go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will.
All right, welcome to Lombardi's Legends podcast. It's been a minute, so hyped to be back. Before the season truly gets underway, we had to get one last special guest in. So, folks, we're so honored to be joined tonight by our good pal, Dr. Sam Wagner from Rehab Lab, Wisconsin. What's up, Doc? How you doing, man? Thanks for joining Lombardi's Legends.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, you guys. I've been a big fan of the page for a while, so it's fun to be able to hop on the podcast with you and talk shop.
All right, Dr. Sam, we really appreciate you being on, but I think first of all, we better tell our fans, why are you here? What's your connection to the Packers, and how do you work with the team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with close to 20 players privately. I do a lot of like body work, chiropractic, PT style care for them during the season, during OTAs, and during training camp.
That's awesome. So how do you get into that, man? I mean, you've got a great background. We want to hear a little bit of how you became a doctor to begin with, but like, how do you?
Yes. Yeah, of course. So, after I graduated college, I had some interest to pursue playing football professionally, and I worked out for some NFL and CFL teams. And I was doing my combine and pro day prep at a gym in Chicago, and there was an intern there who was getting ready to go to chiropractic school, and we just got to talking. And I was like, well, yeah, when I get done playing, that's an avenue I really want to go towards. And when one door closed, one dream ended, I went to pursue the next one. And, one thing led to another. We stayed in touch. And one of his players went to high school or did 7-on-7 with Jordan Love. And when Jordan became the guy, he was looking for a body guy, someone to do his recovery work. And I literally was put in a text message and in a group chat. And I went to Jordan's house and worked on him. And he was like, yeah, let's do this for the season. Let's do this for the year. And everything kind of snowballed from there.
That's fantastic. So just tell us a little bit, what are some of the things that you work on with these guys? I mean, I'm sure every player is a little bit different depending on where they're at, maybe depending on the timing of the season, if there's certain, things that they need to do to recover, etc. But what are some of the standard things that you like to work on with these guys?
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of it can be position dependent too. And I see that with a lot of like their biomechanical patterns and things like that. But, typically if it's right after a game, we're doing a lot of soft tissue, a lot of recovery work. In the middle of the week, we'll do a little bit more movement and corrective exercise. And then right before the game, we'll do more of like what I like to say is like a neurological priming, basically just ramping up their system to get ready to play a game, and a lot of really good feel good stuff. So they're ready to rock and roll once the kickoff comes.
So question for you then. So you've got a really cool business model. It looks like you got a lot of stuff going on. So not just Green Bay Packers, right? I mean, so you're based out of Appleton, so you're right in the area, right? Kind of near Green Bay. So do you treat other athletes, or what does that look like? And what does our audience need to know about that? Because it's so fascinating, right? To talk to somebody that one day could be working with the Packers, might be working with the collegiate athletes another day, and down the line. So just kind of curious what that makeup looks like, because that's really unique.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And so the model that I wanted to create is, everyone is an athlete. Whether you have to squat to get onto the toilet or squat to get into your car, those are athletic functional movements. And the whole goal is to get someone to be able to do that well and long term, where they won't need to be working with a provider like myself. And, I always tell people I'm not your traditional chiropractor or PT. I'm a good mix. in saying that, you have 206 bones and almost 650 muscles, and that's a huge, huge part of this. And my whole goal, is like, number one, let's get you out of pain. Number two, let's prevent it from coming back. And number three, let's let you perform so you can do the things you want to do long term. And it's really fun to kind of see those differences and that dynamic of working with an NFL athlete and then working with someone that just wants to be able to play with their grandkids, or be able to play catch with their son, but they can't because of a shoulder thing. And that's been really rewarding, and it's been really fun to be able to do that stuff. And so that's kind of the model that we wanted to create and make it more of a partnership in care rather than just like, I'll take care of you and that's it.
That's fantastic. Dane, it took 39 years, but someone finally called you an athlete. So we've got a real breakthrough here tonight. And folks, I just want to say that's phenomenal. Dr. Sam, I really, going back to the football guys for a moment, because yes, you're right. And I appreciate kind of calling out that there's all different aspects of everything from daily living to finely tuned professional athletes. Obviously,
Sure.
There is a scale or a difference there. I've always wondered, when you're talking, and it's very position specific, I'm sure, but you're talking about some of these guys in season trying to keep their body weight index, their muscle mass, everything up to a level that they can stay at peak condition. You mentioned some of the things that are typical or standard during the week, but what are some of the things that they have to do, or what these guys at the highest level have to go through in order to keep their body at that peak physical condition when they're putting their life or their body through hell every Sunday and having to figure out, all right, how do I recover? How do I have the right nutrition? And how do I get myself ready again the next week?
Yeah. So in talking with a lot of the guys, the staff over at the facility, they do a really great job nutrition wise, along with keeping them hydrated and making sure that everything is on point there. They bring in massage therapists, and then a lot of the players like to do things extra because they get some really good quality care in there, and they have access to a lot of really awesome modalities and facilities, and they just want to do more to even prep their body. So that's where they'll seek out someone like myself, or there's a couple massage therapists who I know personally, and we both work on the same players. And it's kind of created this more like network or cohesive interweb where we just want all these guys to succeed. We want all these guys to be healthy. And I think in that world, the best ability is availability, and allowing them to be available and to play and do what they're great at is the whole goal.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, Wags, I know you like to say something similar to this, and we talk about on the podcast that availability is a skill set to a certain extent, and so and obviously not everything is just. You can't stop everything, right? And football is such a violent game. So we're not saying anything to the fact, but do you think it's accurate? Maybe I'm misreading it that the working at things there's opportunity at least to kind of achieve like better goals if you're working at it in season and getting kind of some of that treatment because I just imagine that the team has its goals and the players have their own individual goals, but coming to you, it almost seems like it is just another step, another layer, another avenue for some of these guys to just be treated the right way and make sure that they're healthy for Sundays, or as healthy as they can be in a game like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think for a lot of them, they value that. Some of them sometimes are like, they love their athletic training staff, and there's a couple of the things that, my players will say, yeah, the athletic trainers worked with this. They suggested that you look at this, and it's a really, really good partnership. And it's been a lot of fun. And I think in that same respect too, it's really neat to see how these guys really want to take care of their body. Like, their body is their product, and that's what they need to do to be able to perform, and not only just mentally feel better, physically feel better, emotionally feel better. And some players want that separation. They're in the facility from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And when it comes time to get treatment, they're like, I just kind of want to be home. I'm more relaxed. And some of them, it's way more of a beneficial time because they feel comfortable in their own environment and it's not as high stress. So the body usually responds really well to a lot of that treatment.
That's phenomenal. And Dr. Sam, please correct anything I'm about to say because I'm not the expert in this,
Sure.
But just looking at, some of the videos and photos and stuff that you posted on your social media page, and just knowing a little bit, just enough to get by, it's clear that, you have a philosophy, I'm assuming, especially with athletes at the highest level, that everything balance and core, that's where it all starts. And so could you talk a little bit about that, and if hopefully I'm not off base and just interpreting and what I'm seeing and the little bit that I know, but I think there's a misconception that folks out there that to get into peak physical condition, you've got to get out there and bulk up, or those are all
Right.
wonderful things if you do it the right way, but would just love to hear from you what your philosophy is when it comes to having that right balance and really achieving that highest level of physical condition.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're 100% on point with that. Everything is anchored through the core and those core movements, whether it's issues that arise with the back, with the hips, with shoulders, with a litany of things. If you don't have stability in your core, then it's going to create issues, and it can create some things that I call like energy leaks, where the body just is not as efficient. The other thing is a lot of that single leg stability, right? A lot of that single leg balance, like we talked about. And then without getting super nerdy, because I love talking about this stuff. There's all these different things like called your fascial plane lines and these connection points for all these players, especially at the highest level. So much of it is being able to explode quickly, have a lot of power, but also be really well balanced so that if you get in a compromised position, you can spring right back out of it and still have force and power through it. So one of my mentors really, really stressed this as far as like player function is if you double your flexibility, you quadruple your strength. Because like we talked about with playing, right? The game can be violent, and it can be violent because you get stuck in compromised positions or really extended or stretched out where you're technically not supposed to be strong or powerful in those positions. But if you train that, you will be. In the game of football, it's not just linear, right? It's side to side, it's jumping, it's cutting, it's twisting, it's turning, it's pivoting. So everything that I try to program with these guys when we work on that stuff is all predicated around that.
So you obviously you work with Jordan. So you mentioned a little bit about, position group wise, but, what does it look like? I don't know what other players you work with currently, but do you work with a number of different position groups, and how does that differ then? And what you're speaking on now, say defensive line, right, versus wide receiver, right? Where like, yes, they're both pro athletes and they're both doing their thing, but one's much more, head to head to a large extent, although not completely. Wide receiver, a little different than that, right? So it's kind of almost like it's a game within a game, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. And so position group wise, it's defensive backs, receivers, O linemen, D linemen, linebackers, and it's again, like you said, position specific, where with a lot of like the D line, for example, so much of their work is all those guys are really strong and powerful, but if they get overextended, they have shoulder issues, elbow, wrist, things like that. Whereas with a lot of the offensive line, they're absorbing that contact. So they have to have a really strong base and to be able to handle that load or to be able to deliver the push or the punch. So that's really a common thing I see with the receivers and the defensive backs. I think it's been super neat because I was a defensive backer, just to see with these guys is a lot of them are really like tight. I guess they're not super flexible unless they need to be, just because they want to be like little jitterbugs. Essentially, they want to be explosive. They want to be able to have that fast twitch, quick twitch muscle where they can move side to side or change direction or out jump a defender for a jump ball, things like that. And so it's really cool to see that. But then, like you talked about, right, their care will get switched a little bit based on what their individual need is. And a lot of it can be predicated on what their position is.
Yeah, this may not be a fair question, but in general, what are the main things that you end up having to correct with guys that when you first start working with them?
So, yeah, man, I would say a lot of it is just being able to stabilize through their core and understanding how to move with it. Because a lot of them have just been super talented and super athletic, but it's those minor tweaks or, just fine tuning the engine, so to speak, where then they aren't having the same injury patterns over time. They're improving and their performances are improving, their recovery is improving. So that's, I would say that's one of the biggest things. And then working on just their balance and stability too. Because again, it provides them more of an anchor, more of a base for when they get in these positions that can challenge their athleticism. They're able to stay athletic at the highest degree.
You mentioned, a lot of these guys, and totally makes sense, 7 to 7, right? And at some point it's like, I just got to go home. So, and maybe that's that helpful for you, right? And you can come in and be helpful there. How much information sharing then is there amongst the team, or the team docs, or is this more, the player communicates things to you, or just kind of curious what that looks like, because it is this interesting thing, because largely you're all part of the same unit, right? Your connector is player X. But just kind of curious if you interact much. And then the second part of this is, do you ever get to Packer games, or are you waiting to go to work after games? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I personally don't have a ton of interaction with the team staff. A lot of that conversation will be relayed to me from the player of like, hey, we focused on this. And I basically tell them like, I'll work to fill in the gaps or put a little more emphasis on one thing or the other. And then as far as games go, yeah, I go to every single game. I travel to every single away game. And it's just fun, man. It's fun to stay around the game. It's fun to be around this team specifically, man. It's exciting. I feel like we played with house money a little bit last year, and to see where we're at now, all these guys, all they're talking about is Super Bowl, and you can tell that they really are buying into it. And it's just fun to be around. Like, I'm so excited to head to Brazil and for next Friday. And it's just going to be a fun year in Green Bay. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think we were talking before we jumped on. We're recording this Tuesday night, August 27th. It was cut down day today. You mentioned it's always a tough day. Some of the guys that you're working with did get cut. This is a tough business. Hopefully they land back on the practice squad. But just kind of curious, like, what is that process mentally for these guys? Because you're working on their body and everything physically, but I have to imagine that, you're right there working with them one-on-one.
Yeah.
That there's got to be a lot of that mental side of it, and kind of talking them through. And I don't want to say that you're counseling them, but I have to imagine there's got to be a lot of that in the interactions that you're having with these guys too.
Oh yeah. I mean, 100%. I think, 90% of what these guys go through is mental. Whether they're in their playbook or their ability to respond, to adapt, or, and I think what's really neat about, I guess that like behind the curtain, so to speak, lens of, it's just cool because these guys aren't just incredible athletes. They're incredible people, and they're striving for things just like we are in everyday life. And the stress in the NFL can get pretty high. And it's really cool how there's a lot of initiatives and resources now to be able to make sure these guys are maintaining their mental health. And, it's great for me because I just let them know, like, whether I need to be a sounding board or just an ear for them, I think that's a unique part about the relationship that is pretty sacred, and I really, really value and appreciate.
Yeah, and it definitely one of the things we've loved about doing this podcast, we get to meet really interesting people, right? We get to have you on, we get to have a number of players and personnel on, and it's so much of it is not about the game, right? We love the team, but we've found everybody's got their own journey, how they've gotten here. Everybody's got their own stuff, right? Their own goals outside of the game. So it's really fascinating. And for you, again, Dr. Sam Wagner, Rehab Lab, Wisconsin, I got to ask, it is a unique role for you. So what would you say is your favorite part of the job? And B, maybe what's something that people might not expect being around professional athletes all the time?
My favorite thing is the relationships, and just to have that little extra edge to kind of root for these guys. And like we said, in that respect, it's unfortunate a few of my guys were cut today, but a few of my guys that were on practice squad last year, they're on the active roster now. And those are huge wins. And it's just fun to see that growth and that trajectory through the process. And, I'm sorry, I forgot the second part of your question.
Oh, just you're around the game. You're around so many Packers, but pro athletes, period. And I think that they're like just what's maybe something that people wouldn't expect or that's unexpected.
Yeah.
Doing that kind of work.
Well, I think it's the relatability of it. Yes, these guys are professional athletes, but they're people, and like you guys said, it's really neat for you to meet these people and have these conversations and. The same things that we stress out about or deal with, so do they. And it's just fun to see their journey and their story. And, even though they're professional athletes, they're great people. And, I think it's just cool from that perspective too, to hear about the team and being in the locker room. And even when it comes to tactical stuff, game wise, I remember last year, we were in Minneapolis, and I was working on Jordan, and then Jaden came in, and I was working on him next. And in that time, this was 4 hours before the game, they're talking about one of these plays where the Vikings middle backer doesn't get deep enough. So if that happens, Jaden's going to run a skinny post, and sure enough, first touchdown of the game, 40-yard TD to Jaden on a skinny post because the backer didn't drop. And it was just super cool, to be in that moment with those guys, and they care. I think that's also the really neat thing is these guys really, really care, and they really love Green Bay. Though the one thing I constantly hear from all of them is the fans and the people make this place so special. And really, when you come to Green Bay, it's all ball. You don't have any distractions. You don't have anything else. And the fact that everyone rallies around them is really, really cool.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. You just named two of my favorite Packers and one anecdote there, Dr. Sam. So appreciate that. I'll try not to geek out too much on that. I do want to ask you, just to shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
If you're willing to do this, I don't know what's going to work best, but can you show us just one exercise that you think would be so important for Dane or I or any of our listeners to just know about? And I don't know what works best on camera, so I didn't prep you for this. I'm sorry.
This is Wags trying to get into the 2028 Olympics. This is how it starts.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, the curling club. If we can get on the curling club, we'll be good.
So one of the things I really like to give to players and so just patients in general is something called the rotational RDL. Why it's really important is you create a lot of explosion and tension from our feet up. That's your base. And, if there's a storm, right, you don't want to have a basement that's going to crumble. You want a foundation that's going to be sturdy. And this is one thing that can help foot, ankle, knee, hip, back. It can be really, really helpful. So what you do is you're going to stand in a staggered position. This front foot is going to be rotated slightly in, okay? And you're going to get into more of an athletic position like this. Now your toes, you want to grip the ground kind of like this and feel that tension through the bottom in the medial arch of your foot, calf, your hamstring, and into this glute. And so you get into this position, and then you rise up, and you squeeze this glute, and then relax and come back down. And so I usually give that to guys for like 3 reps of 15 to 4 reps of 15. And I like them to do it 1 to 2 times per day. It's been really, really cool to see guys that have had like some pretty chronic hamstring stuff be able to not only recover quicker, but get out of pain quicker. So that would be like a huge bread and butter if that works for you. You want to do it?
Dane, you and I, we have no excuse now. Like we're sitting around a desk and whatever, hustling around, but like that's anyone can do that. So I guess we're gonna have to make that part of our routine, and we'll report back when our 40 time goes from like 5.8 to maybe like 5.74, and then that's something to look forward to.
Well, they do have the 40-yard dash at the kiddie area outside of Lambeau now, so we could just go let it rip whenever, Wags.
Yeah. Let me know. I could put you through a little warm up before. How about that?
I love that idea, Doc. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, we'll need like the ice baths afterwards. Have the cardio equipment ready nearby. Right. So yeah, absolutely.
So Dr. Wagner, so where can folks find you? I mean, we got to link up a while ago on social media, and we adore what you're doing. You're a great dude and become a friend of the pod. So where can folks find you? Again, Rehab Lab Wisconsin, but where do folks go?
Yeah, so rehablabwisconsin.com is our website. Otherwise, my Instagram handle is drsam.wagner, or the clinic Instagram is Rehab Lab Wisco. So those are 2 great places to start. With that, there's a lot of information on the website. Obviously, I'm really open to messaging people as best I can. I know this is going to be the busy time of year at the season, but I just want to help as many people as possible. That's why I got into this, is to just help people live the life that they want to live. And I think as part of that too, like myself and the other doc in our practice, we were talking and, about this podcast and being friends of the podcast too. So anyone that listens to this episode and that mentions you guys, we're going to give a free first appointment to. That's awesome. Yeah. So, we just want to build a community, and our main location is located in Appleton, but stay tuned because a location in De Pere is in the works.
Oh, amazing. Congrats on that. That's huge.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. That's very generous. And obviously not all of our listeners are based in the Appleton, Wisconsin area, but we'll certainly get the word out, and really, really, really fun to have you on, Dr. Sam, and love to talk to you again sometime. And like you, we're looking forward to this season. I think this was a perfect primer to get into it.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait. Thank you guys again so much for having me on. Like I said, I've been a huge fan of the podcast for a while, and if I can continue to help in any way, I would love to. I'd love to talk about this stuff. I'd love to talk about the Packers, and yeah, man, I'm just pumped.
This is great. Well, we're going to try to make it to a game, or whatever we can. So we're going to link up for sure.
Absolutely.
We'll reach out, and this isn't the last time. We're pumped to get to know you a bit, and so we make every guest before we wrap up. We have to do one thing. Wags, can you lay it out for Dr. Sam what we need? Where we're going to have to ask you to do for us?
It's very simple. Just give us a hearty "Go Pack Go."
All right, ready? Go Pack Go!
Go Pack Go!
Dr.
It. Sam Wagner, we're so grateful. Appreciate you. Again, Rehab Lab Wisconsin. Go check it out. Thanks, Dr. Sam. Thanks for joining tonight.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yep. Thanks, Dr. Sam. As always, be legendary and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go!
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go Pack Go. Ain't show with no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish it good.